Morning. Hope you're all okay. I missed you last week. Just looking at how much of a lioness I look like. Just going to check if I'm where I'm supposed to be. Jade was still half talking to me when I went live. I'm there, look. Right, so morning. Come and say hello if you're on. I hope you've had a lovely, lovely weekend. I don't know what's happening here. I don't know which side anything's at. Don't know. Yeah, I hope you had a great weekend. Missed you last week. I was on the retreat in Sedbergh. Morning, Jade. Hi. Morning, Anisha. Yeah, I was running a retreat last week, so I wasn't here. It was amazing. I still feel like I'm catching up with myself from it. We're just getting all the feedback in, which is just gorgeous. It was brilliant. And it was just the kind of thing I love doing. So we were outside. We did canoeing. We did open water swimming for some of us. There were some very brave women there without wetsuits. I was there all smug in my wetsuit, nice and warm. In Windermere, it was brilliant. So anyway, I'm back. I've just found my pencil. Can you see? It's right good, isn't it? I've got a load of them, and guess who bought them? My mother-in-law. How cool is she? Morning, Helen. Hope you're okay. Let StreamYard know your name if you want to, but thanks. Hi, Sally. Loads of you are going to like this talk today. I'll just show you my other pencils just because I love them. Hang on. I forgot about them all and I found them. Can you see them? How cool. Yeah, my mother-in-law bought them. Out of all the people you would not think would buy this, especially if you met my mother-in-law. She's fab. Right, anyway. Imposter syndrome today. There's 10 of you on that I can see live. I know loads of people watch this on replay. Stick your hand up if you suffer from imposter syndrome. If you ever have. Morning, Eleanor. If you click on the thing above, let StreamYard know your name because I can only see this. So I have to keep seeing who it is. Who suffers from imposter syndrome? Do you know why? That's driving me crazy in the background. Do you know why? Do you know what to do about it? So the whole thing around imposter syndrome and what it is, it's kind of, is it Jenna? Nice. Just a little bit. I'm seeing you in real life on Thursday. How exciting is that? Yep. Hi, Claire. Tell Facebook your name. Yes, you just a little bit. Claire is a coach who is fab, but basically doesn't even really tell people she's a coach yet, although I did see a brilliant Facebook post of yours the other day. So well done. Yes, Sally, just a little. All right, so the whole premise of imposter syndrome is a doubt about your abilities, about your accomplishments, accompanied with a fear of being exposed as a fraud, despite real evidence of your ongoing success. It's all this idea that at some point I'm going to get found out. Who do I think I am? That's the biggest phrase I hear from this. Who do I think I am to be doing this? And it comes up for all of us at some point, but for loads and loads of different reasons. And if you Google about imposter syndrome, there's so much stuff out there. But Valerie Young is credited with like splitting it into 5 groups, 5 different types of imposter syndrome groups. The perfectionist, so the ones who don't get anything done ever because it has to be perfect before they start. And if it's not perfect, they're scared that they'll be a fraud. Superwoman or Superman has to be able to do everything at a high level all of the time. Natural genius, you should know that. Why don't I know this? I should know all these things. The soloist, I can do that by myself, don't need any help. And the expert. And these groups all hold a really different view of what imposter syndrome means to them and a different way that it impacts them. I've got a little robin sat in my garden looking at me. Thank you. And so imposter syndrome isn't a real diagnosis, but psychologists, psychotherapists, people in general acknowledge that it is a very real and specific form of intellectual self-doubt. And imposter syndrome feelings are often accompanied by anxiety, depression. Yes, you can be a bit of all of them. Generally, you will fall into one major category at a time, but also it can depend what it is you're feeling an imposter about. So for work, you might be one type of thing. For home, for something else, you might be an entirely other category. I'll see if Jade, will you just make a note for me to put some bits about the categories on in the group, and I'll put a bit of some notes about each one in the group. And you can have a little look through, but a little Google will cover that off for you. So it's not a real diagnosed mental illness, but it is a real thing. And yeah, everybody in the medical profession and beyond accepts it as it's a thing. And when we look at the causes of it, it almost always comes back to the same kind of thing. And I end up getting in little arguments about this because lots of people feel like this didn't apply to them. And then we dig around a bit and you can usually find where it did apply to them. Lots of people that have imposter syndrome grew up in families or environments that really stressed achievement and success, and that really used that as a definition of like your character, of how worthy you were. And it might not be your family, it might be school, etc. It's something that I vividly recognise about myself, and I'm entirely cool with it now. But yeah, achievement and success was important. And whether it was stressed to me externally, it then became almost an internal validation of I need to do the best I can. Otherwise, not good enough, not worthy, blah, blah, blah. And that manifested for a long while. For lots of people, it is a lifelong situation. If your parents went back and forth between overpraising you or criticising you, you're more likely to have feelings of being a fraud later in life. And it's not that your parents are doing anything intentionally. It's the idea of wanting you to achieve the best that you can for you almost always, but it sets us up really badly. There's a really famous poem that I remember studying at school. I can't remember who it's by. But anyway, the first line of it is, they fuck you up, your mum and dad. They may not mean to, but they do. And I watch myself do this with my children. It's I'm so proud of you when you're doing well. And then I have to reverse and say, I'm proud of you for trying so hard, because that's all that matters. And that's one of the solutions that I'll come to in a bit. So yeah, the idea of being praised for doing well is a really tricky situation to get into with your kids. And it's something that schools still promote, whether it's the school themselves or the way the government has to do it because of the stupid tests that our poor children have to do. We still promote a society based on achievement being aligned to your value and your worth. And it's entirely backwards now. But yeah, society's pressures to achieve also contributes towards this. It's dead easy to measure your self-worth based on what you've accomplished. And there are definitely people in here that I've had conversations with about this that only believe that they're successful or they're worthy. It is Philip Larkin, I think, the poem. Sorry. Hi, Claire. I haven't seen you for ages. I'll Google it after. I think you're absolutely right. So yeah, it's dead easy to measure your self-worth based on what you have accomplished or believe you've accomplished. And yeah, there's people I talk to about that, rather than your self-worth just being based on the fact you're alive and enjoying your life, which is a far healthier way to be. So some really common characteristics of imposter syndrome. And Claire Walsh, you lecture this, you literally teach this, you teach confidence coaching all the time. So feel free to jump in with your stuff. Some really common characteristics include an inability to realistically assess your skills. So again, you assess them almost in an emotional manner. It's not really in a logical manner, because when I say what's the evidence for your lack of skills that you're talking about, you can't really justify it. So it's an inability to accurately assess your skills. Attributing your success to external factors. So instead of being able to say that presentation went really well because I worked really hard on that, I put a lot of effort in, I was very organized, I'd made my slides in advance, it went really well because I worked really hard on that. We sort of say, oh, we got lucky, or those people were easy to please, whatever. We attribute it to an external reason rather than being proud that we created that reason. Another big characteristic of imposter syndrome is kind of berating your success, playing it down, not accepting that you deserved that success. And and always believing you might have been able to do it better. And that's a really common one. We could generally all do most things better if we wanted. But it's not about doing everything better. It's about having a healthy balance throughout your life of the stuff that you want to do. Another common characteristic is fear of not being able to live up to expectations. And a lot of the time I'll start talking about expectations and we'll look at whose expectations are they, because so much of the time we set our own much higher than anybody else around us. So like I'm delivering a menopause talk tomorrow to Virgin Media O2 Women's Network. So there's over 100 people registered on this. And basically I need to know more than they know and be able to teach it in a way that is engaging and interesting to them. I don't have to be the expert. I don't have to live up to my own expectation of what a menopause expert might look like. I have to be competent and capable in the knowledge I've got and know that it's more than they have and that I can deliver it well and engage and teach it well. And that's that difference. It's like my expectation only has to match their expectation of what's going to be delivered, not my own unrealistic one. Another common characteristic is overachieving. One I see over and over again in women who still don't feel like they're good enough is they're overachieving in so many areas. They're juggling so many balls. You know, it's juggling plates. You don't normally do that. You spin plates and juggle balls. They're overachieving. They're doing more than people expect, but are not recognizing it and not giving themselves any credit for it. Another thing is they sabotage their own success. And you can do that in so many ways. So by not being prepared in the first place, by berating yourself, you're sabotaging your success. You're kind of not accepting it. You can not put yourself out there in the first place. So you'll put blockers in the way before you even get to a place where you could be successful because you sabotage it before you even get on that road. And a massive and overarching characteristic, I think, of imposter syndrome is self-doubt. That feeling that I can't do that. So hands up, who does this apply to? Parkinson's law, exactly right. Trying to see who said that. But for some reason, my whole thing has gone off. What's gone off? Why? I don't know. Helen. Hi, Helen. So Parkinson's law applies to the idea that your work expands for the time you give it to fill. So if I've got to produce a presentation for tomorrow and I get told now, I will do it in that time. If I've got to produce it for next week, I can take all of that whole week and I can make it bigger to fill the time that I've got. It doesn't mean the quality work will be any better on any of those. It's just that we allow it to spread out to fill the space. So we have this whole, because we buy into our own stereotypes, we buy into this old-fashioned reserved manner that our culture used to believe in, that whole kids must be seen and not heard, this idea that there is a proper way to behave and that accepting a compliment is somehow big-headed. But we continue to buy into the stereotype. Like, you can change that at any point, and labeling it as us Brits just means you're buying into that stereotype too. Like, a compliment is so easy to accept if you choose. If someone says, well done, Rox, that was a great presentation, I can say, thanks so much, I put loads of work into that, and that's it. I don't sound big-headed. I sound grateful for their comment. I acknowledge that I did a lot of work for that. Instead of saying, oh no, it weren't all that. Well, what's the point of that? I put loads of work in. We don't have to buy into the stereotypes is basically what I'm saying. So yes, I think as our culture, we do have that natural urge to play stuff down, but it's entirely unnecessary. And it's also a bit offensive to the person who gives you the compliment in the first place, because it's like you're telling them they're wrong. So if someone says, well done, Rox, that was a great presentation, I'm like, oh no, it weren't very good. I didn't think I did this bit very well. It's like you're literally saying you're wrong. And I feel like that's kind of rude, actually. And you're also saying that I don't agree with your opinion, which is also kind of rude. Saying thank you, I worked really hard is a much nicer way. So don't buy into this whole stereotype thing. It was you, Helen. A compliment is a little gift. I love that. Who's that? Claire. You're absolutely right. And because of how our brains work, we're naturally negatively biased in our brains. It's an evolutionary thing. It was designed to save us. It's the reason we're still alive, basically. But what that means is we remember the bad stuff much more clearly than the good stuff. So you could have 99 compliments and one insult, and you remember the insult. It's like how our brains work. But we still have the option to enjoy that compliment at the time. And it's super important we do. And we take it as validation, not that I want us to need the validation, that other people thought we did a good job too. On most things, kind of the overcoming of a lot of this is recognizing, in my gut, do I feel like I did the best I could do there? And that's sort of the only line that you need to be walking. So the only way to stop feeling like an imposter is to stop thinking like an imposter. And I love that as a line because most of us think that way. Whereas if we go back to, do I know more than the person I'm teaching? Usually, yeah. There's the whole thing of you only have to be the smartest person in the room. You don't even have to be the smartest. You just have to be the one who delivers the stuff the best. So lots of ways to start kind of addressing this a little bit with yourself, with people you know. A big one is breaking the silence. Stop thinking you have to be perfect. The first thing in the 5 groups. Right, so that's Claire again. Thank you. Yeah, the first thing in the 5 groups was the perfectionist one. Don't exist. Nothing beautiful would exist if everything was perfect. It's imagine all the leaves being the same, or all the flowers being this one kind, because that's the perfect kind, and there aren't different kinds of perfect. Because surely if something's perfect, there can't be more than one type, because otherwise then there wouldn't be a perfect. Yeah, makes no sense. Don't exist. If you're reaching for that, you'll just keep failing at every bit. But yeah, coping with it, break the silence. Shame keeps a lot of people from kind of fessing up about your fraudulent feelings. And almost that shame is the thing that stops you from talking about all your achievements, the stuff that you've done. And what am I trying to say? That shame stops you sharing stuff because you don't want to come across big-headed, and you don't want people to think that you think you're brilliant. And even that's all mixed up. But yeah, this idea of no one wants to say they're an imposter, but everyone's feeling it. That's the thing that keeps everything in the dark. And that's why we don't talk about a lot of our stuff, because no one will say, oh my God, I feel like that. And it allows everyone else to feel like that too. I was talking about like the breaking the cycle stuff. We're waiting for that first person to leave a party so the rest of us can go, or the first one to go to bed at a retreat so the rest of us can go. This stuff is, we need those people out there that will sort of lead that way just quietly and get on with it and sort of say, I know that you feel like that. I felt like that too. This is how I got over it. It is like being a dandelion in a world full of flowers if you're trying to be a perfectionist. Helen. Yeah. But a world full of the same flowers, which would be very boring. Which bit of it, Jade? Which bit holds you back? So break the silence. Separate your feelings from fact. So there are times when you'll feel stupid. You'll do something and it will feel stupid. It happens to everyone from time to time. But recognise that just because you feel stupid doesn't mean you are stupid. It might mean that you did something a bit daft. And the first thing to do there is like own it. There, say, I didn't mean to say that, or that's not exactly how it was meant to come across. Own some of your stuff, but doing something stupid and being stupid are entirely different things. Think about how you'd sell that to your children or to your friends There's a real difference between being stupid and doing stupid. Same as naughty for my children. That was a naughty behaviour. That doesn't mean you are a naughty person. And it's splitting those things out. Recognise when you should feel fraudulent. So this is a kind of mixed up one. So a sense of belonging is what fosters confidence. What am I trying to say here? So if you are the one in the room who stands out, so say you're the only female or you're the youngest or something like that, recognise that it might be that this is a natural place where you would feel fraudulent. That still doesn't mean that you are, but recognise it for what it is. So for the fact that you are singled out here, and that's something that's making you feel nervous, and this happens a lot. And when I say you should feel fraudulent, what I mean is recognise when there's an obvious reason for you to feel fraudulent, and then address it for what it is. This is because I am this person in this situation. This is not the same as I am not capable of being in this situation. It's noticing that there's a physical, an actual reason for this. Jade, having to have everything perfect and ready, that is a huge thing that holds you back. Really held you back in your business, makes you feel fraudulent. Yeah. And I think a big factor of this is you don't believe that we're all doing the same thing. You believe that actually it's just you that is paddling like mad underneath, whereas so much of the world is like that. We don't have the inner confidence to be able to say kind of the truth and the stuff as it is. When we do, everything becomes normalized. And it's the fact that this whole imposter syndrome is a thing that where we feel everyone else has got their stuff together and we haven't, whereas actually the reality is entirely the opposite way around. Another thing around it is like looking for the positives. So the good news for someone like you, Jade, because you're a perfectionist, it means you really care about the quality of stuff that you're producing, and that's important. And striving for excellence can be a healthy and a useful thing. Striving for perfection absolutely isn't, because we've said a bazillion times, it's not there. It does not exist. So it's starting to look at like accentuating the positives around your stuff and recognizing when other people see them as well. Like that whole idea of valuing other people's opinions is a really useful thing to tackle imposter syndrome, especially if it's somebody that you trust to give you a realistic opinion. Because exactly like I just said before, that whole dismissing their opinion, kind of rude. The idea if someone says that was good, being able to say, oh, I'm so glad you thought that, which bits did you think were good? So that you can kind of improve them again for next time, but you're taking the compliment. You know in your gut, I could do a presentation over and over again and know exactly each time if I felt that went well. So you can do it by audience reaction. You can tell and you can feel. And if you're not tuning into yourself enough to know your own thoughts about it, then you're always going to be stranded in this imposter syndrome world. But we can tell by body language, we can tell by feedback. You get external validation anyway. This is the thing, but you just ignore it because you've already made your decision that it could have been better or it's not good enough. You will get external validation, but you can feel, you know if something's good enough. I'll sometimes come off these lives and know that we're brilliant lives. Sometimes I'll come off these lives and think, I'm waffling about all sorts there. And it's fine. Providing I'm giving you some useful information. These are free sessions. It's like, I know I've done an okay job there, but some days I'll feel it more than others. And you just know, but you just don't trust yourself enough to believe that kind of knowledge, basically. One of my biggest ways on imposter syndrome stuff is to write your own rules. And this is a thing as much as write your own rules and right rather than wrong, write your rules. If you've been operating under misguided beliefs, so like in the 5, if you're operating under misguided beliefs that you have to be a natural genius, for example, write your rules. So instead of I always know the answer, change that opinion-based statement into something like, I can find out the answers. You don't have to know things, but it's starting to look at what are the rules that you are kind of living by that are perpetuating imposter syndrome, that are holding you up to this standard that doesn't exist, and what are the rules you are following that are keeping you on that path, and what could you change them to? So that instead of I always know the answer, so on my talk tomorrow, it's always a really good one, this, because I don't know the audience, I don't know hardly any of the women I'm teaching this to. I'll get loads of questions in, lots of them I'll be able to answer, some I absolutely won't. And I will say happily, like on that call, I don't know the answer to this. If you want to drop me a message after, I'll go and find out for you. That's fine. Like this kind of stuff, this ownership of things, dead important. I can't make a rule up saying I'm the expert and then make things up. If I don't know, it's far healthier and makes me look far better is that I'll go find out. No idea. And that's all right. You don't have to know everything. It depends which one of the camps you fall into. Did that answer your question? One of the last things I'm going to talk about is the whole fake it till you make it situation. Now, there's massively different schools of thought on this. And I think I've changed where I sit along the way. And you've still got to do what works for you. But the whole fake it till you make it idea can be absolutely valid and important if it gets you to do the stuff that you would try and avoid doing in the first place. So there's nothing different between something like visualization and faking it till you're making it. They can be the same thing. Is visualization means I imagine that I'm doing this really well. Fake it till you make it means I'm practicing doing that visualization. But the thing with fake it till you make it is that at some point, once you've done it enough times, you'll suddenly realize you're not faking it anymore. So things like public speaking, I remember many times getting up on stage, doing Facebook Live, I guess, right at the beginning, where I would be nervous and worried about how I was coming across. At some point, that shifted, and now I don't think twice about it. It's just something that I do. If someone asked me to get on stage to do something, I'm like, fine. But I almost didn't learn it and then it worked. It's that I did it more and became desensitized to it, and it became okay. And that's sort of what fake it till you make it is. It's almost desensitizing yourself to something. But yeah, act the way you want to feel. That's a really, really good way, Claire. And I get why you don't like the word fake. I guess that's the bit I get stuck on a lot of the time. But act the way you want to feel is a huge thing. I'll often talk to people about, like, if you were choosing the life you want to live, what would you be doing? Why aren't you doing it now? What behavior can change to allow you to do that? So yeah, act the way you feel is a great replacement for that. Act the way you want to feel. So getting on stage and acting confident is the same as fake it till you make it, but yeah, with a different connotation. So yeah, behave the way you want to feel at some point along the way, and you won't pinpoint it. You'll just notice one day, oh, I don't have any anxiety about that. None of that stuff worries me anymore. But there's no almost magic switch. And for some people, they experience symptoms for like a limited time, just before like the first few weeks of a new job, or just before they go to do something that is out of their comfort zone. Some people, it's a lifelong thing without kind of intervention and therapy and stuff. But it is so common that the fact that we're not all talking about it is the thing that is keeping it as almost a thing anymore. Nothing is a thing once we're all talking about it, because we all hold on to something like this with so much shame and guilt and the fear of being found out. That's what makes it continue to be anything. And that anything seems so small, but imposter syndrome, you're just doing something you're uncomfortable about doing. That does not mean that you're not perfectly capable of doing it. And that's what I'm talking about today. So, any questions? I've kept it bang on time again. I'm doing very well at this lately. The sun is absolutely gorgeous here. Look, I can't see anything. But it is drying and washing, so I'm well happy. Any questions on it? Obviously, if there's any questions on replay, etc., drop them in the comments. I'm going to put out the description of the 5 categories. See which one you fall into. Next week is half term, but I'm still here for that one. And we're doing healthy work-life balance, which is obviously a favourite topic of mine, as I have a lovely one now, but it's taken me years to get here. So I'm going to talk healthy work-life balance. Then I'm off the week after because it's an inset day and I'm in London for the NFL. But I'm here next week, even though it's half term. So I will see you at 9:30 next Monday. All right, no questions, but if you've got anything, tag me in the comments and I will come and answer them for you. Right, have a lovely week. I'm off to parents' evening. Oh no, it's not tonight, it's tomorrow. Swimming tonight, parents' evening tomorrow. Fun. Thank you, whoever you are. Helen. All right, I love. Right, talk to you all soon. Thank you. Bye.